It hurts when I do this, so I've stopped doing it. Now, I hear this very regularly in clinic. People obviously have pain with an activity, so they avoid that activity and then the pain reduces. The trouble is they then return to that activity and the problem comes back. However, the problem never truly went away because the body doesn't work this way. You know, if you've got, say, like a tendon problem in your knee, then tendon is an adaptable structure based on the load that it encounters. And if you've overloaded that knee through an activity by doing too much too soon, or something has gone awry in your training or whatever else, then if you rest, your body goes, well, we don't use this tendon, so we'll reabsorb some of the healthy tendon, meaning proportionally damage to healthy tendon is actually worse than it was before. Because you're not currently loading it, it feels better. You go back to the activity and actually you're in a worse state than you were before. And this is why a lot of people go through vicious cycles with these type of injuries. And basically the key here is the complete opposite of this approach. You need to load structures, load injury, not just tendon injury, joint injury, whatever injury it is, actually loading it progressively within the sweet spot, in the rehab sweet spot. The tolerance of your injury is the key. But it has to be progressive as well. So you can't just start at a high level. You need to start at a sufficiently low level and build it up. So for example, if we use the knee again as an example, if someone gets pain on squats or going down the stairs, then obviously the issues may well be depth or load, or it could even be the position and therefore load of the kneecap or the front of the knee. Because when your knee goes past your toes, obviously kneecap pressures go up. And this is where the old-fashioned idea of your knees going past your toes is being bad is actually not correct. We use this movement all of the time, and therefore it's normal for our knees to pass the front of our toes. And if we have trouble with this issue, we need to train that component. The key is progression. So if you look on some of the videos I've done on my exercise database, you'll see an exercise such as, say, sissy squats. Well, sissy squats, some people go, oh, they're terrible for your knees. There is no such thing as a terrible exercise. The only bad exercise is an exercise that is above your current capacity. So obviously, this is whether you're injured or not. If it's above your capacity, it has the capacity to overload your injury or your knees and cause an injury. The key is progression, and I've also done a series of progressions within that sissy squat as well, where you can create a sissy squat that's easier to move forwards more and more over time. The key is starting off with lower loads, shorter ranges of motion, maybe on two-leg exercise first, thinking of the stairs as one-legged exercise or one-legged activity, moving into more forward knee translation progressively, and obviously therefore getting back onto one leg to basically make your knees build past the level of what they need within the stairs, within a squat with heavy weights. So if you're looking to get back to the stairs, you could use squats. And if squats is a problem, you can do a shallow squat, a light squat, a bodyweight squat, or even a wall squat. And even within the wall squat, you can bring them feet further back, which translate the knees further forward. As you get better with the squat, you go deeper and with heavier weight. Obviously, your knee translation is only going to be so much. Not as much as coming down the stairs, and it's on two legs as well. So you could move that then into a lunge, for example, and that lunge could start more at the split squat end, which is where your knee translation is pretty much none, and you could then move forwards in the position of your knee over time. So you're getting more forward knee translation, which is creating more loads on the structures at the front of the knee, which is making that structure and them areas adapt to that load, which is exactly what you want from an injury. So once you get to that level, you could start doing, say, a step down exercise, which is specific to coming down the stairs. You could start with a really shallow step, and you can start just with body weight. And then you could obviously add more weight to this over time within tolerance again, and you can obviously start to increase that depth on that step. Now, obviously, at this point, you could start to move into, say, like the sissy squat type ideas and other things as well. And this will obviously make your knees more resilient to these activities. And therefore, it's actually not just good for injuries in rehab purposes, but you could say these exercises are good for injury prevention as well. People go in the gym and do exercises that are very, old-fashioned, should we say. You know, they were invented by bodybuilders of the 1950s, 60s and 70s. When we see someone like on YouTube, there's a guy on there who's the knees over toes guy, and he's an advocate of this type of an approach, which is an approach that I fully agree with, which is if you can work into all manner of movements and loads into directions that you'll encounter in your life, then you will make your body more robust and harder to injure in the first place. And if you do it before you get injured, it's far better than trying to rectify a problem once it's already occurred, of course, as well. That is another thing to be said. And therefore, if you're an athlete, or even if you're not an athlete, it makes sense to perhaps include some of these styles of exercise into routines, because obviously if we look at certain exercises like when the knees pass over the toes, say like in a weighted step down exercise, or we look at like a sissy squat type exercise, then of course muscle has been loaded, but they are actually creating more sort of bias towards maybe tendon, and therefore tendon resilience, tendon load, tendon strength, and that's going to be good for the tendons in the long term. And we get very obsessed with muscle, but it's actually not just about muscle, and especially when it comes to injury and injury prevention, of course. So this is just a video just discussing that, rough guide, as I mentioned before, on how you could progress and how the knees passing the front of the toes can be utilized as a means of progression to an extreme level. And it isn't therefore bad, it's actually good as long as done correctly, listening to your body. So that's during, after and the next day, no irritation, build up slowly, progress slowly, have a very systematic way of progressing depth, load and forward knee translation. And then you'll find the stairs is easy, which is exactly what you want to do. So anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.